Hello, Ms. Martinez. The group 8 are going to explain the tuning project impact. And the objective of this activity is managing the development of easily compatible and comprehensive qualification and link it up away throughout Latin America. The next. The next. Okay. And the main purpose of the research is to recognize the different aspects that had the Latin American University with the implementation of two tuning projects that adopt the new methodology and gave the initial impulse by focusing on the curriculum design process because there was a growing perception that new graduates had demand of the modern workplace because graduates themselves who have found that their range of skill and competences are lacking when they seek employment. And there are three evaluation questions. This type of the question determine the type of data collect and type of response the evaluation study will be able to provide. And there are three. For example, the first, what is the general picture of the implementation of a competency-based student-centered approach in participant Latin American university? And the second, which participant institutions succeed in implementing the competency-based student-centered approach at the level of at least one first cycle degree programs as opposed to case of A, implementing the approach in single courses within a degree program, or B, implement a certain aspect of this approach, whether in separate department or at the level of whole university. And the three question, what difficult have been experiences by those activities trying to implement competency-based student-centered approach? And my partner would explain the second part.
Okay. Hello, Miss. I'm going to explain the state one purpose. In first place, I can say this activity was presented in both Spanish and Portuguese, and the objective of this stage was directly focused on the development of the student, very much about your skills that the student possessed before their institution began to develop them. In any activity, this stage will consist in the measuring the scope of the project during implementation in different education institutions. This is the purpose in the first stage. The second stage purpose is as the procedure samples on the findings were developed from June to October 2014, taking into account those institutions that reported no very change during the implementation of the project in the first stage. And this purpose was to measure the result of the successful implementation of the project, where 27 institutions reached the level is higher or level were ready to undertake the consolidation stage number 2. My next parent explain the next topic.
Well, to recall, stage number 1 was applied between October and November 2013, where 160 institutions, or in other words, universities from 18 Latin American countries were participating. The educational institutions needed to take the tuning impact questionnaire to know what could be the impact that the tuning project could have on each university, but also take into account the implementation of competence-based student-centered learning in the development of 5 specific aspects. Another important thing is that participants or universities need to report where they could notice the changes. And at the same time, they have to provide documents where they can demonstrate the changes like student plans, students' guides, the different didactic materials, etc. Well, the stage 1 findings are the level of impact of tuning in different implementation aspects. As you can see in the screen, there are 2 graphics. The first one is said that 122 universities that are the 91.7% show noticeable changes in implementation in at least in one of the 5 aspects and at least in one subject area. In the second graphic, it is said that 62 universities, that is the 46.7%, show changes in all 5 aspects, at least at the level of one subject area. And also something important is that they provide documents to support their answer. And the final percentage from 10 universities, that is the 7.5%, mentioned that the changes in tuning influences were implemented in all 5 aspects, but this was in the whole university. And at the same time, provide documents that demonstrate those changes in the educational institution. My partner will continue with the stage number 2.
To continue and based on the research, it's important to mention that between June and October 2014, first cycle degree were selected as the unit of analysis. Those institutions reporting important changes. Well, this administration had to be fully familiar with the degree program proposed as an example of successful implementation. Teachers could be any members of the teaching staff who give classes within the program in question. Students were chosen from the select degree program and had to be in their third or fourth years of study, if it's possible. On the other hand, talking about the instrument, where 3 different questionnaires were developed for stage number 2. One for academic executive, one for teachers, and one for students. That is very important to mention because the most general question about the possible impact of the tuning project on the implementation of a competence-based student-centered approach. That's me. Tuning project had an impact, a big impact on the design and planning of the degree programs in their implementation. To sum up, as a group consider that the stage 2 data demonstrate that in the 21 sample institution, a competence-based student-centered approach is seen to work, if not in all, at least in a considerable number of courses within the degree programs, chosen as an example. My partner will continue with our presentation.
Well, discussion and conclusion. Discussion, as a group, we know that this study has been feasible, so this contains indirect evidence about impact. Clear understanding of the importance of the shift in approach is the impact from attitudes and values, like the impact in terms of creating sustainable support system. It is necessary in the study of the implementation of competence-based study center to successful implementation of learning assessment in classroom, in the school, students will perceive and get benefits from that. From this study, we was able to obtain a high level of response related with turning impact. We are interested to provide a high level of education while the students focus in learning, they will understand the implementation process in order to learn and improve the practices, also continue learning together from subject, institutional, and national borders. And as a conclusion, from this study demonstrates to have enough and clear evidence based on impact in at least 21 higher education. We demonstrate to have enough and clear evidence based on impact. Classrooms practices introduce competence-based in the study-centric approach. This approach is clear with positive attitudes and has been developed by stakeholders. The study suggests two steps to understand how to competence based on study has been implemented. So that's the whole presentation, and thank you so much.